Hey, welcome. So, when you hear the word cybersecurity, you probably picture hackers in hoodies and lines of green code, right? Well, today we're going to zoom way out. We're going to look at it as a grand strategy, a master plan that everyone, from the boardroom all the way to the server room, really needs to get. So let's dive in and start forging this unbreakable shield.
This quote right here, this is pretty much our guiding light for this whole conversation. It just perfectly sums up how these three kind of separate ideas come together to create a defense that is so much stronger than the sum of its parts. This whole idea of an unbreakable shield, that's what we're going to build piece by piece right now.
But, before we can even start building that shield, we've got to understand what we're actually up against. I mean, we live in a world where our businesses, our data, our infrastructure, it's all under constant threat. So first, let's get the lay of the land. Let's map out the battlefield. And now, what's really fascinating here is just how specific these threats are. Cybercriminals, they don't use a one-size-fits-all attack. Think about it. In finance, they're hunting for money, plain and simple, which is why you have these super strict regulations like GLBA. In healthcare, it's all about that incredibly sensitive patient data, protected by HIPAA. And for governments, wow, the stakes are as high as it gets. We're talking national security. The main thing to get here is that every single industry has its own unique risk profile, and that means every single industry needs its own tailored defense.
So how in the world do you manage all this chaos? How do you possibly build a shield strong enough for these constant, varied attacks? Well, the answer is in a really powerful integrated strategy. It's called the GRC framework. That's governance, risk management, and compliance. This is the blueprint for how we turn defense from a chore into a real business advantage.
All right, let's start with the G for governance. The easiest way to think about this is like the command structure of a ship. It's the core rulebook. It defines who's in charge of what direction we're all sailing in, and, super important, who's held accountable if we go off course. It's the leadership, it's the mission, all rolled into one. Honestly, without good governance, your ship is just adrift. Okay, next up, R for risk management. So if governance is setting the course, then risk management is the crew up in the crow's nest, constantly scanning the horizon. These are your lookouts, spotting potential threats, the icebergs dead ahead. And they're also the navigators who chart a safe course to steer right around them. This is the proactive, the forward-looking part of our whole defense system.
And finally, we've got C for compliance. This is all about making sure our ship is actually seaworthy and is following the established laws of the sea. Are we following all those industry regulations we talked about? Are we sticking to our own internal company policies? Compliance is what makes sure we have the right maps and we're following the rules of the road. It keeps us out of legal trouble and just ensures a safe journey for everyone.
So, we've got our captains, our lookouts, and our book of maritime laws. But here is the absolutely crucial point. These aren't just separate departments working in their own little silos. No way. Their true power is only unlocked when they all work together, reinforcing each other to form one single integrated shield. And that's what takes cybersecurity from being just a technical chore to a real source of business strength. So that brings us to the big question, right? Are these three pillars, governance, risk, and compliance, are they just, separate boxes on an org chart? The answer, and this is important, is a definite no. They are deeply, deeply intertwined, and they create this powerful, self-reinforcing cycle. And this just shows you exactly how all connects. It's brilliant. Look, governance sets the strategy. Here's where we're going. Risk management goes out and spots the threats that could totally derail that strategy. Then, compliance comes in and checks to make sure we're actually following the rules along the way. But the real magic is step 4, feedback. The info from risk and compliance is constantly flowing back to governance, which lets the leaders tweak and refine the entire strategy. See? It's not a straight line. It's a dynamic, living cycle that makes that shield stronger with every single rotation.
Okay, this brings us to a huge misconception I hear all the time, that cybersecurity is just an IT problem. But a real GRC shield, it isn't forged down in the server room. It's actually mandated from the very, very top. So let's take a look at who's really responsible for holding up this shield.
Just look at this breakdown. The board of directors, they're responsible for seeing cyber risk as a business risk, not a tech risk. The business execs, they're on the hook for keeping the business running and protecting that stakeholder trust. You've got legal and compliance navigating all the complex rules. And yeah, of course, the IT crows are absolutely crucial for implementing the systems. But the big takeaway here is that GRC is a team sport, and it's driven by leadership. It's a strategic imperative, not just a technical task.
When an organization truly gets this, when they embrace this top-down integrated GRC approach, something fundamental just shifts. Cybersecurity stops being seen as this black hole for money and completely transforms into a powerful strategic asset.
This comparison really says it all. The old view is that cybersecurity is just a cost center, right? An annoying, unavoidable IT expense. A technical problem with a checklist you gotta fill out for the auditors. But the new GRC-driven view sees it as a total strategic advantage. A strong security posture builds trust with your customers, and that means loyalty. It gives shareholders confidence. It doesn't block innovation, it enables secure innovation. It's not a cost, it's an investment in your company's resilience and its reputation. So we'll end with this question for you to think about. I want you to take a hard look at your own organization. Is your approach to cybersecurity a dynamic, integrated, strategic shield that actually helps the business grow and thrive? Or is it just a dusty checklist sitting in a folder waiting for the next audit? Because the difference between the two could literally be the difference between resilience and ruin.